This is part 1 of a 3-part series covering Colby's title fight. I already have the second part of the series on Patreon, and I'll upload that here when I finish the final part. And I'll discuss all of the Patreon comments at the end of the final episode. I'll do them all together. So thank you very much to the patrons, and hey, enjoy the series.
You absolutely suck!
So Colby Covington finally got his shot. It didn't take much. Unless you call 7 consecutive wins, the complete adoption of an alter ego, the destruction of his reputation among his peers, multiple and escalating courses of intense antiviral medication, I'm assuming. Let's just say I'd be very surprised if at some point over the last couple of years, Colby hasn't found himself squatting over a mirror, wondering what in the good God's name of fuck am I looking at here? This is a mess. It was a unique strategy. The road to the title was paved with bad intentions. The feuds he had cultivated continued to grow. The situation at his gym further deteriorated. And the man at the center of it all continued to not give a single solitary shit about the feelings of anyone. If Colby has one enduring message that really crystallized in a build-up for this, it was the freedom afforded to the very few who truly do not care what other people think. Now that can manifest itself as a negative, as was often the case with Colby. But that mindset can be a massive positive. It's a gift. It can give you the courage of your own convictions and the ability to be more autonomous in your decision making and behavior. Sometimes you gotta go against the grain to get where you wanna be. There's a great quote that goes, "I am not who I think I am. I am not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am." Well, I say it's a great quote, but it's a bit of a confusing fucking tongue twister if I'm being honest. In other words, people evaluate themselves and derive their own self-worth on the basis of the feedback they get from others. If they get positive feedback, they think they're hot shit. If they get negative feedback, they're reaching for a bottle of bleach. If they don't get any feedback, they can be an anxiety-ridden ball of nerves. Oh no, why didn't nobody like my little fucking Instagram post? Obviously, the ability to interpret feedback is critical for living in the real world. People who can't do that, or who simply won't adjust their behavior, are doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over. But placing too much weight on the opinions of others, that is a weak-minded way to live your life. You are giving away a lot of power there, and allowing yourself to be controlled or dominated by others. Addicted to compliments, are too afraid of criticism to ever take any risks. That is a sorry-ass existence. Now say whatever you want about Colby, but that ain't him. I know Masvidal would later dispute this, but Colby certainly behaved like a man who was largely unfazed by the utter disdain of the mob, or at least free enough to give the cashing of a series of escalating checks precedence over the boos of the crowd, the backlash of the fans, and the almost audibly shrill tweets of his angry Twitter critics. Twittics, you could call them, or twunts. Colby was asked by the mob on a daily basis to close his mouth, step back in line, and behave in what they regarded as an appropriate manner. And they made that demand using the only tool they had: negative fucking feedback. He faced wave after wave of criticism and disdain, and remained steadfast on his course to the top. He understood that if he could face the storm and keep moving, he could enrage hordes, create headlines, and ultimately sell them pay-per-views. It's all about the fucking money for this guy. And hey, if that's all he's after, good for him. That's his prerogative. Researching this series has been a nightmare. Hundreds of articles written about him in the last couple months. But all that energy and emotion gave Colby quite a bit of notoriety, added buzz to his fight, and when the time came, gave him the confidence and leverage to dig his heels in, not accept the first offer the UFC threw at him, and negotiate with the organization. I'm not claiming Colby's goal was a noble one, to offend and infuriate his way to the top. But as far as I'm concerned, if the gimmick or elements of the gimmick were fake, this was the very real philosophy underlying the whole thing from the very start. Forget what people say or what they might think. Don't be afraid to face some criticism in order to live your fucking life. And that is a worthwhile message for everyone.
You know, I could care less what they think, you know, and that's what it's all about. This whole thing's been about, is not caring what people think. You know, I'm just going to go and march to my own tone and keep doing what I do, and that's win.
The difference between me and every other fighter is that I don't care what people think of me.
You know, you got to be a little selfish in life to get out of life what you really want. And what I want is to be successful. That's what I've always wanted as a kid, and I'm on my way towards that right now.
Yeah, I always had that inside of me, but I always just held it in because I was scared that I was going to get judged or what people were going to think of me. Or
They think that people are going to judge them for the way they are. So, you know, they should just be them and do what they want. And who cares what people think of them? Because if people are judging them, those aren't their real friends.
I just don't care anymore and fuck people's feelings. You know, I'm here to fight.
I've been thinking about what you have done to me.
So that'll be the first and last time we address that peasant on this show, man.
Colby's attempt to secure a title fight at UFC 244 fell apart in a negotiation. His old pal Masvidal stepped in to fill the big MSG spot with Nate Diaz. Colby took Jorge messing with his money as an especially egregious affront and lashed out on Twitter. Over the following weeks, they both took shots, with Colby diminishing the significance of the BMF.
So it was very frustrating when they were moving to somebody that's, 2-2 and a 50-50 journeyman in the division. So
because nobody the F knows who he is, especially if they're watching me. They want to see pure violence. They don't want to see pure hugging.
Now I passed him up. I'm making more money than him. I'm banging harder chicks than him. I'm doing better in life, and he's just a jealous little bitch.
Like the whole hanging out with girls, he doesn't get girls like that. 1, 2, when has it become so cool to kiss and tell? Like he's talking about who he's having affairs with and this and that, and then talking bad about women.
My reaction was like, oh, they want to make a BMF title. It's really the JMF title, the Journey Mother Effing title.
Hey man, I met this guy's father. He actually has a dad, man. I'm surprised he acts this way, like a punk, literally, just to get a reaction, just to get this, people talking about him.
They both had their own take on the exact origin of the beef. Colby claimed the beef began around the time of his fight with Maya and was primarily a matter of jealousy on Jorge's behalf.
Yeah, it was one thing after another. It was the Damian Maya thing. He started to get bitter and jealous. And then as soon as I won the world title, I had him in my corner for that fight, and he never even showed up that week to help me. He didn't show up to one fight before my fight to help warm up with me. And I knew he was making it all about himself, and he wasn't truly happy for me and my success. All he cares about is himself. He doesn't care for anybody unless they can do something for him. And I'm not that guy. I'm not going to always just do stuff for you and then be taken for granted. So
while Masvidal claimed they hadn't been friends since Colby ripped off a coach at ATT.
To really put the nail in the coffin, ripped off my coach. Didn't pay him money. My coach was training him since he's an amateur all the way till he got his title with RDA, and then after that just ripped him off. When that happened, he died to me, so I really don't like to address him in interviews.
Of course, Colby denied stiffing the coach. There was a funny moment in his interview with Submission Radio where he claimed to have receipts. Dennis, the Aussie guy interviewing him, says, hey, you ever think about releasing them? It was almost like he was just politely saying, hey, Colby, we believe you and all, but can we actually see the fucking receipts?
He's trying to say that I owe his coach money, and I can show you the receipts. I'll go get the receipts right now and show. I overpaid him, if anything. And I always paid his coach, man. I gave him $5 to 10 grand per fight, and I have the receipts too, so.
Does a part of you want to sort of show the receipts eventually just to prove him wrong, just to prove that it's not actually what he's talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to make him look dumber than he already looks. He already looks stupid and desperate out there, but, a chance to bury him even deeper with truth would be a great day. But, I'm done talking about him. I got nothing to say about him.
I'm not saying he ripped off the coach, but if Colby had a record of the payment, we'd have already seen it. Anyway, they both also retrospectively reframed the friendship, and the manner in which they did so is almost a perfect summary of the difference between the two. Colby characterized the friendship in a pretty cold-blooded, pragmatic fashion, saying it was simply a mutually beneficial business relationship.
Really, I found out his true colors, and he wasn't a real friend the whole time. He was just using me to help him with his wrestling, and that's good, because I used him to get striking. So we kind of used each other, and it wasn't really a friendship. It was more of a business relationship, and it worked for the time being, and
And that's that, you know.
While Jorge had the attitude that Colby's current disloyalty, after he had supported and even accommodated Colby earlier in his career, negates the whole thing. A type of friendship annulment.
Knowing that he'd take to the internet or online to bash me when I had never bashed him, and he just took to bashing it, or maybe he's gonna get 10 more pay-per-view buys when we do fight. If you would sell out our friendship like that so quick, we never had a friendship. If for a couple dollars you would throw my name under the bus or try to say things, we were never cool, you know?
But to be honest, if it was just these guys trading shots, I would have never believed the beef. Even though it's antithetical to everything Jorge's represented in the last couple of years, I would have guessed it was hype, possibly a conscious but unspoken agreement. They just seem too close. There's an old documentary Genghis Khan did called Tales from the Grind. Makes it clear these guys were real close, best friends. At one point, it almost seemed Colby was keeping a spreadsheet of all Jorge's ejaculations. To what end? I don't know. But that's close.
That strength and conditioning really gets you in. What was?
Whatever. I'm gonna jerk off, I'll be lighter, and then I can do it.
You jerked off twice today, dude. How many times did you jerk off in a day?
And while Colby was helping Masvidal with wrestling, Jorge was returning a favor by offering Colby free private lessons in how to fuck.
Why? What happened?
I'm here with the baby. The legs is up here. Hold on.
In all seriousness though, if you watch this video, it's obvious they had a very close friendship. Jorge is especially complimentary of Colby. He appeared to be taking Colby under his wing. And up until very recently, Colby was equally complimentary. So if it was just these two, I wouldn't have bought it. But in the same period, Colby began a war words with another team member by picking against Dustin Poirier in that cheesy pick of the week crap he does on Instagram.
I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make money. So go pound that Khabib money line, because Dustin can't stuff a nosebleed. How's he gonna stuff a takedown?
This prompted an emotional post-fight response from Poirier before Colby went to town on him on the Ariel Helwani Hour.
George is a buddy of mine. I don't sell out like fucking Colby Covington and talk bad about people who I roll with.
I had to give the people America's pick of the week, Ariel. I had to give them my honest opinion. I thought this was land of the free, home of the brave. Yeah, 100%. That's the only reason, because I picked against him, and I don't know why he's acting like a childish little kid. You know, he should get a sponsor from Kleenex with that Emmy award-winning act in the post-fight press conference crying, "Oh, my dream, blah, blah, blah."
Next thing, Dustin threatens him on Instagram, and this widened the scope of the drama at ATT and caused multiple other team members to weigh in on the subject. Joanna Jędrzejczyk went on a score.
I don't want to talk about, but I think you shouldn't, if I'm going to say this like bad way, but you shouldn't shit in your home, you shouldn't shit in your gym, and what he has done, it's like pretty shady, and I really do not respect that. And
The idea that Colby was recklessly burning multiple bridges caused people to speculate about the possibility of numerous fights breaking out in the gym. Dustin threatened Colby. Well, Colby responded.
Nah, I haven't seen him, man. That was fake news, just like a lot of the other stuff he says, but, he knows where I'm at. I'm an American top team. If he wants to talk it out like men, I recommend that, if he wants his health to be at full health, I recommend him not coming within 5 feet of me.
Right from the beginning, Masvidal had been open to settling the whole thing face to face.
He knows what fucking gym I'm at. So I'll be at the gym, Colby. If you're hearing this, you little bitch, because you will.
I'm the type of guy, if you say something right now, whenever I see you, I'm going to hold you to that. It's just who I've been since I was a kid till right now. He knows it. That's why he runs at me. That's why, not runs at me, runs away from me. That's why I go where he eats at and wait for him. He doesn't eat at these places no more.
The potential for violence seemed very real, and it was up to Dan Lambert to keep the peace.
Ultimately, Dan Lambert, sat everybody down and make sure we're on the same page. And that's a sacred ground in American top team. And you don't cross those rules that Dan Lambert set forth, or there will be repercussions.
And eventually, Dan Lambert would describe in detail the atmosphere at the gym leading into Colby's title fight.
Well, there's certainly tension between those two guys, but, and they're two obviously well-known fighters who get a lot of attention. But, keep it in perspective. We have 100 pro fighters. Both those guys respect our gym and understand that that's a place of doing business, and the team comes first and foremost. And if they have a problem with each other, I don't care. I mean, if they want to be stupid and take that problem in the street somewhere at a restaurant or a gas station, they both know that they'd both be losers if it happened inside the gym. George takes it a lot more personally than Colby does. Colby was all about business, and when I sat down with Colby and talked about it, he was very receptive, saying, "Yeah, I'm here to work. I'm here to do what I need to do and get better and win championships and make money." So it was an easy pitch with Colby. George was not as quite of an easy pitch, you know, and George told me, "Hey, man, I'm telling you right now, next time I see Colby in the gym, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. That's just the way I am, and that's the way I'm wired."
There's something oddly hypnotic about that. Anyway, in this situation, Colby seemed to be a legitimately toxic person, creating tons of unnecessary drama in the gym, which begged questions about his future on a team. But despite the atmosphere, Colby remained committed to ATT and loyal to Dan Lambert.
You know, this is where I started and this is where I finished. You know, I can't thank the Godfather enough, Dan Lambert, for what he does for me. And, you know, I bleed American Top Team through and through, and, you know, I'll finish my career with them.
And let's be honest, this is only a big fight because I made it a big fight. I could care less about this fight. The only reason I'm taking this fight is because Dan Lambert wants this fight. I'm Dan Lambert's professional hitman.
In fact, far from leaving a gym, he actually appeared to relish the upheaval and tension he was creating. You know, one of the insults that Jorge threw at Colby was that he pretends not to care what people think. But in reality, he's actually hypersensitive.
But he acts like he's not sensitive at all, but he's the most sensitive dude I've ever met. He cries when he reads comments.
Now, that may have been the case while Jorge was friends with him, and I could believe it if Colby was simply offending the nameless, faceless hordes on social media, but Colby was offending his teammates and relishing the drama he was creating at ATT. So he does not have an issue creating serious animosity, even if he has to confront those people in real life and on a regular basis. That is a nightmare for most people. If Colby was overly sensitive, I don't see him being able to focus or function effectively in such a bitter environment. And as I said, he was not only functioning, he fucking relished it.
Man, I love it, man. It's more business. You know, I'm not there to be friends. And I've said this since the beginning, guys. I've said that I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. So win fights and kick ass and get the biggest checks in the sport today. So, you know, I'm not settling for anything less, and I could care about anybody else's feelings, man.
It appeared the situation was becoming, at best, uncomfortable and at worst, unsustainable. One teammate described in detail the headache-inducing micromanagement required by Dan Lambert. The environment appeared to be a pressure cooker, ready to explode. But as Dan Lambert said, there's 100 pro fighters in the gym. 2 articles came out in the run-up to Colby's fight with Usman, and using tons of quotes from various fighters and coaches at ATT, they painted a drastically different picture of Colby. They described him as mostly quiet, extremely hard-working, and as a very generous training partner. Multiple people noted that Colby is always willing to come in and help them prepare for fights, even when he doesn't have a bout scheduled himself. I mean, this selfless willingness to help others is a most prominent theme running through their comments. This strange duality of Covington was best captured by a Brazilian fighter who spoke highly of Colby, but wished to be quoted anonymously, lest his head end up on a fucking spike when he returned to Brazil. Several teammates said they understood Colby was just trying to make money, but I've never liked the phrase, "it's just business." It's like saying, hey, I'm happy to be your friend unless there's a fucking dollar on the table. Then you ain't shit, every asshole for himself at that point. And Colby proved that with Poirier and especially Masvidal. Among many of ATT's most prominent fighters, Colby went full scorched earth. And although I do admire his willingness to go against the grain and face criticism with a smile, I do think the beefs reflected poorly on him by revealing a guy whose closest friendships are worth fuck all, basically.
And it wasn't really a friendship. It was more of a business relationship, and it worked for the time being, and that's that, you know.
But Colby is nothing if not a competent multitasker in the world of shit-talking. Another dispute, which was just as prominent and reflected somewhat better on Covington, was with Dana White and the UFC. I mean, if this guy will dispose of Dustin Poirier for MyBookie.ag money, imagine what a pain in the fucking ass he'll be for the people that pay his primary income. For Colby, simply securing his title shot was a slippery series of lies, false promises, and disrespect on behalf of the UFC. So in order to get what he felt he deserved, Colby Covington went to fucking war.